like and subscribe. How can I properly ask my dates to split the bill with me? I'd suggest you start taking your dates for coffee or something casual and short. That way, if you don't hit it off, finish your drink, and go about your way. Lunch dates, dinner dates. Oh, I splitty. Personal hot take, I usually pay the whole bill, if I ask them out. However, I never bring it up. I'll joke if they say they will split, that they can pick up the tab next time. Kinda a two birds one stone situation. Get that second date lined up. I'm a woman. Coffee is a great idea. If it goes well, maybe to coffee and a museum next time. In America we have things like Taco Tuesday at restaurants, where the food is cheap, that one day a week. My husband had just been through a divorce when I met him. He did not have a lot of money, and he told me that our dates were to parks, libraries, thrift stores and museums. It has been 17 years together, and we still love doing nothing together, even though we make a lot more money than we did in the beginning. It is a good time to find someone who likes you for you. Be honest and resourceful. Keep working hard, and take every opportunity to get education and training. Do not date a lazy person. For the longest time it never occurred to me that the checks should be split. I grew up thinking the male on the date should pay. IDKY, but I never really thought about it until a Tinder date got offended when I paid while she was using the bathroom. It was just a coincidence that the bill came while she was in there. She got extremely offended and never heard from her again. Now I just go to the bathroom and dip out the back door. If the idea is to ask a woman to split the bill with you, then it might not be a bad idea to post this question to r/AskWomen. They'll tell you exactly what works and what doesn't. Keep it cheap on the first few dates. Ice cream shops, coffee houses and the like. Hell, act like you're loaded. When the bill comes, laugh at it and say, "Is that all?" Overtip like a drunken sailor as well. Remark how the servers are underpaid and underappreciated. Note by date 5 you will be out of cash, so hit me up then on what to do. I genuinely do not know. I absolutely hate bill discussion. It makes me extraordinarily uncomfortable to have to figure it out. So I always would pay, unless they asked if I wanted to split it, in which case I would say yes. If it is a first date, don't ever split unless they offer. It is a bad look. Going forward, I have seen a simple no worries, do you want to split this? Work. Also, if you can casually make it clear when you ask, "Fat Earl helper, hey, do you want to split dinner somewhere tonight?" Is the back quote. In general, if you are going to split checks, you should not feel guilty about it. If you do, then just pay for the meal. But I am not going to lie, your data is gonna notice stuff like that. It makes a big impression. It does make a big impression. I went on a lot of dates before I met my husband, and although I'm financially independent, and I always offered to split the check, it stuck out when they actually wanted to split it. That sounds bad. I know it does. It just came across as them either being disinterested or extremely frugal, like splitting hairs. I never met up for expensive first dates, usually just a couple drinks or coffee, so we are talking about splitting at most a $20 check. But I also had no problem telling them that the next one would be on me. When my husband and I were dating, we pretty much took turns. He ended up insisting on paying a lot of them time, but I'd force him to let me pay sometimes too. Yo dog, you wanna split this? Or what? Works every time. Just be upfront before deciding on a place. They may not mind and be understanding. Good luck. This is one of those things that sounds good in theory, but won't play out well in reality in most cases. I always offer to split, or get my own, but if a guy wanted to clarify that we are going Dutch before we even meet, I honestly probably wouldn't even want to meet. I can't see a way to phrase it without coming off as cheap or tightly wound, or like your hackles are up thinking women are gold diggers. Just go for something inexpensive like coffee. Man, I disagree with like every comment on here. It's weird. Still, the question is 10h old, so this is probably invisible, but in the Netherlands it's standard that you're splitting, because you're both grown adults with jobs in theory. I understand if one person isn't working, or some special case, but I don't really understand the reluctance. Maybe because it's much harder to split bills than it is here. Literally takes 5 seconds. The machine does it for you here. It sets up some weird power dynamic, if the man is expected to pay, like the provider, and it's too old-fashioned for my taste, but each to their own. Also it feels weird, like you're paying for someone's time. So it's a bit strange to me that people are mostly offering workarounds like going for coffee, when for me, it's not about the cost that's the issue, but the principle and the message that is being sent. I don't really understand how people want to have equal, as in egalitarian, relationships, and start off on date #1 with a sort of manners provider signaling. Edit, cause I forgot to give an actual answer, just say you cool with splitting? And make it casual. Most adults in my experience should barely notice, and just say of course. If there's a big fuss, that's probably a red flag for you, unless you want to be in that dynamic, but then you probably wouldn't ask this question. Alternatively, just assume you're splitting, since it's the equal thing, but I guess, that wouldn't work in the US, since the rules are apparently different. The Netherlands it's standard that you're splitting, because you're both grown adults with jobs in theory. And now you know why other countries call it going Dutch law. *WHAT do you think? Shall we split the bill? Or *THIS times on me, next times on you? As a woman, if a guy said we splitting this on the first date, hell I'd be unlikely to get a second date. Not because I want someone to pay for me, but because it would just strike an odd note with me that they asked. However, I always offer to split, if I like the guy, and want to see him again I'll let him insist, and I'll say okay, but I'll get it next time, which is a nice gentle way of saying I want another date. If I don't want to see him again, then I'll insist on paying my half. This ice note about the money, I can afford to buy dinner 10 times over. It is about working out. If someone has a similar attitude to money to me, I'd rather pick up the whole check, and not see them again, than have an awkward conversation and potentially come across as rude. When I am dating someone, I always pay my share, and am generous with getting gifts vertical bar. I want someone with a similar approach as me. Note this ice note about how much money you have. If money is tight, then perhaps the first date should be a coffee, or meeting for a drink rather than dinner. This sounds a bit strange, and I don't really understand when people use paying for a check as some kind of statement they're making. That seems odd to me. I'm pretty generous when buying gifts, and like spending a little more on quality things, but if someone is offering to split a check, that's not a problem with me, and I don't see it as some overarching message being communicated. Splitting a check is splitting a check, not a litmus test. You do you, but this is a sad way to go through life. I think that's pretty weird, that it would bother you that someone asks, even though your preference *is* to split the bill. I see it as more of establishing a baseline, that the guy values communication, and considers the gal an equal, rather than someone who needs to be provided for. Or worse, bought. And on the gal's side, it also establishes that she considers herself an equal, and is uninterested in letting things play out in a way that means she owes him anything. On top of that, it helps establish an appropriate setting for the date. If one of you isn't doing so well financially, and isn't comfortable spending a lot on the date, then maybe you'd go for a coffee and a walk, rather than a lobster dinner, or whatever. The idea of the guy must pay just comes across as super outdated to me. I can see it, if the guy is making all the plans for the date *WITHOUT checking, if the gal can afford to pay her own side, or is simply willing to spend that kind of money on a date, in that case, sure, the guy's the one calling the shots here, he can foot the bill for his plans for the night, especially if they're extravagant plans. But otherwise, if you're going on a date with someone, it implies that you're both hoping to get to know each other better. Even if the idea is the person who asks the other person out must pay, that still strongly implies that the other person is doing the first person a favor, somehow, and that the first person needs to pay for the privilege. And that really rubs me the wrong way. And, really, the main thing for me is that it just boils down to *COMMUNICATION*. I have *NO* idea why it would be *LESS* awkward to just leave this unsaid, so that both parties are wondering the whole time how things will go when it comes time to get the bill. Do you really want to wait that long to find out that the guy expects to be the man and pay, then pushes you about something because now you owe him? Does any guy really want to wait that long to find out if he's just being used for a meal ticket? I feel like I'm the same in the inverse. I'd be prepared to pay and wouldn't ask, since that uncomfortably puts them in a weird position. But if they didn't offer, I'd be unlikely to organize a second date. Doesn't speak well to our compatibility if she doesn't offer to pay her own way. In that scenario, she's the only one who can broach the subject without putting the other person in an awkward position. I don't want someone to pay for my meals, and I'd rather pay the whole thing than split, but I've never actually paid the whole thing on the first date, and don't respect men who choose not to pay for my meals. People can convince themselves of anything. Your approach is waiting to figure out if they are worth investing in, which is the same thing they're doing when splitting. You're just lying to yourself to justify. You sound real weird. Is this 2021, or are we back in the 1990s where men are expected to foot the bill? Women can't just sit here and talk about wanting to be treated equally, and then when it doesn't suit them, i.e. having to split, not pay the bill, then it's expected and gentlemanlike for the man to offer to pay. How does this logic work in your minds? For someone who's fine with splitting the bill, everything you have written suggests otherwise. You are using it as some sort of test. It's not that deep. As a man, I'm more than fine with paying the bill if I enjoyed the date. However, I always ask, would you be fine with splitting the bill, because I want to see their response. 10/10 times, if they have an attitude or clearly look and say fine, then that's a red flag I'm glad to avoid. It's quite telling the majority of the replies in this thread aren't actually answering your question. They're just giving you cheap date ideas with the implication that you should still be paying for the whole thing. The reason is, no matter when you ask a girl to split the bill, it's going to be at least a little awkward. The expectation is that if a guy and a girl are going out on a date, the guy's going to pay, especially if it's a first date. Your best bet is to honestly bring this up while you two are making plans for your first date. After you guys agree on a place/time, say something like, I usually split the bill on the first date. Hope that's okay with you. But you need to be prepared to find out that's not okay with a lot of women. They might act like it's okay at first, but then watch a few days later they magically have to cancel, and they never reschedule. Due to the aforementioned expectation, I think it would be in really poor taste to spring it on someone when the check comes. If she doesn't volunteer to pay her share, find a new one. This needs to be higher up. Anyone women who would get upset with the idea of splitting the bill first date is an immediate red flag. If it's the first date, pick up the check. After that, just ask. Split them all until you're more comfortable with each other. We splitting this, right? Say it when you set up where y'all going. Where you wanna go. How about Genoa's? Perfect. We splitting this, right? I have personally never split a bill, but I have told girls at the end of the first date they're paying for the next one. I usually say it in a joking way, and Thea have always liked it, and Thea have always taken it well. Yeah. Because it's a joke. I am a woman and kind of confused. Maybe it is a cultural thing. Where I live, Germany/Spain, it would be very strange not to split. It is not even a question. We agree on a place to go, so we agreed on how expensive it is going to be. If a guy offers to pay, I offer to split, but don't discuss further if he insists. Also, as a woman, I do prefer coffee/ice cream dates. If it does not click, I don't have to sit through hours and instead be done in under one. Edit, spelling. Be upfront and just ask. Don't wait till the end, and don't beat around the bush. If he/she reacts negatively, just find another date. Don't attempt to split the bill. It makes you look like a cheap. You don't, at least not on the first date. I always have split the bill on first dates, but I reckon it depends on who you're meeting. I move in fairly liberal circles, where splitting was the expectation. Tell her. She can either split the bill with you, or you can leg it out of there as quickly as possible. If her purse strings remain steadfastly closed, compare footwear with her, and highlight the fact that your maximum velocity is likely to be greater than hers. I'm a woman. I offer to split the bill if the date was bad. I feel bad having someone pay for me when I didn't enjoy myself. I never try to get a free meal out of it. If the date went well, I offer to pay next time. If you initiated the date, then it's not really fair to ask the other person to split it. Why? If someone asks me out, and I say yes, then it's because I want to meet them. It's not like I'm doing them a favor they have to pay for. Edit, spelling. This is such an outdated ideology. If I ask out my buddies for drinks, I'm paying for all their drinks. You asking someone out on a date doesn't mean oh now I have to pay for them. I'm so glad they said yes. They are also interested, hence they agreed. No. Just because I ask you out, and you agreed, does not make me liable for the expense. So if my friend asks me to grab a bite, they should pay? I really don't get what the problem is with paying for yourself. Why is it still an issue in today's independent world? If everyone went into these things assuming they'd be paying for themselves, everything would be much simpler. These things are tricky. Some good advice here about just going for coffee or drink, perhaps other free/cheap outings, until you figure out if you're compatible. But make no mistake, if you ask somebody out to an event or dinner/meal, you should be paying. Should have mentioned it well before date night. Devil's advocate here. Be not a man, but why would you ask someone out to date and expect off to pay their half? Maybe I'm just old school, or whatever, but I always found it irresponsible and rude to ask someone out on a date that you created, and expect the op to pay for said date. It's about chivalry and principle, not money. Don't go asking people out if you're broke or cheap. If that's the case, just say so, and ask to hang out instead of a date, because dating insinuates romance and wooing. Whereas, hanging out, I feel, is more liberated and relieves expectations. Now, before anybody starts attacking me, let me also mention that as a woman, I have had my fair share in asking men out and paying for our date, because anyone with manners knows that is the right thing to do. Dating is about getting to know each other, not money. Hope this opinion sheds some insight. There's no good way. If you're worried about saving money, invite her out for a picnic, or go to a cheaper spot. The thing about women and bills is that I 1000% guarantee you that they will care more about the fact they had to pay than the amount they had to pay. Let her tell you, if she wants to pay for things, never ask her to, at least not until there's an actual relationship in place. You've been visited by the ghost of a very important man. Pay your respects by liking and subscribing, and he'll grant you 3 weeks of good luck.